What's up, you guys? Welcome to the video. Tonight it's Spin Master Monster Collection Nights Monday night. So we'll go ahead and start the video with Gears Blue Thunder. Now this thing. Space Gold chassis wheels with white roll cage and tires with golden Pikachu printing with Astro treads. Moving on to Ice Grave Digger. Now this thing. Blue chassis wheels with white roll cage with clear blue tires with white Pikachu printing with white ice treads. Moving on to Zombie Megalodon. Now this thing. Black chassis with red roll cage with green wheels. Black Pikachu printing with zombie glitter treads. Moving on to Galaxy's Monster Mutt Dalmatian. Now this thing. Cyan chassis, B-locks, and Pikachu printing with black roll cage with clear black wheels with Galaxy treads. Moving on to Fire Son of a Digger. Now this thing. Red chassis and wheels with yellow roll cage with orange tires with red Pikachu printing with yellow fire treads. Moving on to Hunter Max D. Now this thing. Gray chassis with brown roll cage with mahogany wheels and chrome Pikachu printing with Hunter glitter treads. Moving on to Gears Alien Invasion. Everything looks the same as Blue Thunder. Moving on to Ice Dragon. Everything looks the same as Grave Digger. Moving on to Zombie El Toro Loco. Now this thing. Black chassis with yellow roll cage, red wheels, black Pikachu printing with zombie glitter treads. Moving on to Galaxy's Bakugan Dragonoid. Everything looks the same as Dalmatian. Moving on to Fire Grey Eclipse Mohawk Warrior. Everything looks the same as Son of a Digger. Moving on to Hunter Earthshaker. Now this thing. Silver gray chassis with black roll cage with mahogany wheels and chrome Pikachu printing with Hunter glitter treads. Moving on to the Neo Galaxy Grave Digger. Now this thing. White chassis with light purple roll cage, pink wheels, teal tires, and white Biget printing. Moving on to the Nitro Gravedigger. Now this thing, pink chassis with black roll cage with teal wheels with purple Biget printing and bead locks with black wheels. Moving on to Biget Customs Gravedigger. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage and bead locks, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs Gravedigger Orange. Now this thing, silver chassis with orange roll cage and wheels, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs Gravedigger Red. Now this thing, silver chassis with red roll cage and wheels, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs Gravedigger Purple. Now this thing, black chassis with purple roll cage, blue wheels, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs Son of a Digger. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with blue roll cage with purple bead locks, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs, the 30th Anniversary Gravedigger. Now this thing, chrome chassis with green roll cage with farm green wheels, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs, the 40th Anniversary Gravedigger. Now this thing, chrome chassis with yellow roll cage, teal wheels, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs Monster Mutt Dalmatian. Now this thing, red chassis with white roll cage and wheels, Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs Monster Mutt Golden Retriever. Now this thing, golden chassis and wheels with brown roll cage with Biget printed tires. Moving on to Biget Customs Bad News Travels Fast. Now this thing, Orange chassis and bead locks with black roll cage, silver wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Aftershock. Now this thing. Yellow chassis and wheels with blue roll cage, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Iron Outlaw. Now this thing. Red chassis and wheels with silver roll cage, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Kraken. Now this thing. Bronze chassis with dirt brown roll cage with pink wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Velociraptor. Now this thing. Silver chassis with mahogany roll cage with black wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Jurassic Attack. Now this thing. Silver chassis with purple roll cage and wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Northern Nightmare. Now this thing. Silver chassis with black roll cage with orange wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Blue Thunder. Now this thing. Silver chassis with green roll cage and wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Time Flies. Now this thing. Silver chassis and roll cage with black wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Lucas Stabilizer. Now this thing. Silver chassis with black roll cage, red wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs Avenger. Now this thing. Silver chassis with lime green roll cage and wheels, begin to put the tires. Moving on to Bigotry Customs El Toro Loco. Now this thing. Black chassis with silver roll cage, orange wheels, biggest printed tires. Moving on to BKT Custom Zombie. Now this thing maroon chassis with white roll cage and wheels, big to put the tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Wolf's Head. Now this thing silver chassis with brown roll cage, black wheels, biggest printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Earthshaker. Now this thing silver chassis with yellow roll cage and wheels, biggest printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Dragon. Now this thing silver chassis with green roll cage and wheels, biggest printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Megalodon. Now this thing silver chassis and roll cage with aqua wheels, biggest printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Max D. Now this thing silver chassis with lime green roll cage and wheels, biggest printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Big Kahuna. Now this thing yellow chassis and wheels with black roll cage, biggest printed tires. Moving on to the original Gravedigger. Now this thing silver chassis with black roll cage and wheels with black roll cage and tires with yellow wheels. Moving on to Gravedigger the Legend. Now this thing got black chassis roll cage and tires with silver wheels. Moving on to the Retro Gravedigger. Now this thing black chassis and tires with green roll cage and wheels. Moving on to Gravedigger number 7. Now this thing silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage with flotation tires.
What are you doing here, Barney?
Moving on to the Green Ghost Gravedigger. Now this thing. Also silver chassis wheels with green roll cage with flotation tires. Moving on to 1982, the original Gravedigger. Now this thing. Vintage chassis with flotation tires with yellow wheels. Moving on to 1984, the grain truck Gravedigger. Now this thing, vintage chassis with flotation tires with black wheels. Moving on to the 1986 Grandma Gravedigger. Now this thing, vintage chassis with flotation tires with brown wheels. Moving on to the Gravedigger Ride Truck. Now this thing, green vintage chassis and green wheels with black tires and the seats in the back. Moving on to the green Nitro Neon Gravedigger. Now this thing, everything is green except the wheels are white. Moving on to the blue Nitro Neon Son of a Digger. Now this thing got blue chassis and wheels with blue chassis and tires with dark blue roll cage with yellow white wheels. Moving on to Charge Crusher Earthshaker. Now this thing, black chassis, yellow chassis and tires with black roll cage with white wheels. Moving on to the pink Nitro Neon Calavera. Everything is all pink. All pink. Moving on to the teal Nitro Neon Blue Thunder. Now this thing, teal chassis and wheels with brown roll cage and tires. Moving on to the lime green Nitro Neon Gravedigger. Now this thing, everything is all lime green except the roll cage is black. Moving on to the 2024 Green Max G. Now this thing, farm green chassis and wheels with silver roll cage with yellow wheels. Moving on to the 2024 Orange Max T. Now this thing got lava orange chassis and wheels with silver roll cage with yellow wheels. Moving on to the orange Nitro Neon Max T. Now this thing, everything is all orange except the roll cage is black. Moving on to the yellow Nitro Neon Max T. Now this thing, silver chassis with yellow roll cage and tires with black wheels. Moving on to the green Nitro Neon Max T. Now this thing, silver roll cage with green roll cage and tire, silver chassis with green roll cage and tires with black wheels. Moving on to the purple Nitro Neon Max T. Now this thing, everything's all purple except the roll cage is all white. Moving on to Custom Elementals Trucks Gravedigger. Now this thing, purple chassis with black roll cage with green and yellow wheels on the left and orange and red wheels on the right with blue tires. Moving on, last but not least, to Custom Phased Out Son of a Digger. Now this thing, white chassis with black roll cage with two red wheels, one black wheel, and one white wheel with 2 white tires and 2 black tires. And that'll be it. Make sure you like, subscribe, or also you turn on your notifications to my YouTube page. Parker Wilson's Blinking and Amigos. Goodbye.